Chapter 12. Our heroes are now approaching the next world that they will visit, and it appears to look a bit different than any of the other worlds they've seen thus far. The entire planet is made of water, a singular blob of liquid with seemingly no solid land whatsoever. Donald sees this as a great convenience and crashes the ship straight into the planet's watery core. No landing gear necessary. The crew immediately, triumphantly opens the hatch and steps into the great blue yonder. Goofy then points out that they might all drown to death on account of the fact that none of them can actually breathe underwater, and that they are currently several hundred meters under the ocean. A point that apparently no one had considered prior to this moment. As a watery grave swiftly encroaches, Donald is forced to perform a miracle. With the quick wits as always, he casts a powerful transmogrify spell, transforming the three of them into terrifying man-fish hybrids. After a brief moment of terror, Sora and Goofy are pleasantly surprised to find that their lungs have not been filled with deadly ocean water, and instead, Donald has gifted them with a beautiful set of gills. Our dear heroes are now accustoming themselves to their newly cobbled together fish bodies. But there's no time for a relaxing underwater tutorial right now, because danger is incoming. A great leviathan suddenly emerges from a nearby reef, startling the scales right off of our poor Piscine protagonists. Upon closer inspection, however, we can see that the monster is actually a conglomerate of tiny scuba diving heartless, glued together into a vaguely fish-shaped mass. Sora attempts to equip his Keyblade to counter the oncoming menace, but he finds the weapon quite difficult to hold with his new dolphin flippers. Donald also realizes too late that he is unable to command the elements at his fingertips, as his hands have been replaced with octopus suction cups. Goofy is also powerless to help, as he has been transformed into a sea turtle, which is an objectively worthless animal. It's right around this time that everyone realizes that coming to this world was probably a huge mistake. Just then, a beautiful mermaid rises up from the depths, brandishing a harpoon of justice. With the speed and power of an almighty tuna, the young maiden makes quick work of the heartless, sending them all straight to Davy Jones's footlocker. Once again, our heroes have found a powerful ally on this harsh alien world. Her name is Ariel. She is a proud mermaid warrior and the firstborn daughter of King Trigon, Emperor of the Seven Seas. Ariel is initially quite suspicious of Sora and his friends, as they do not look like any kind of fish she's ever seen before. She comes to the conclusion that the three of them must be some kind of nuclear test victims, and offer to take them back to her kingdom, out of pity if nothing else. Sora and the gang realize that it would be most beneficial to have someone like her guide them through this awful planet, as they agree to accompany her through this terrible, stupid, awful world. As our heroes arrive at Ariel's palace, they are alarmed to discover the entire kingdom is engaged in a bloody war. Ariel explains that her father's kingdom has been invaded by an army of Heartless, commanded by a foul sea witch named Ursula. Ursula is an awful, disgusting creature that makes babies cry just by showing up. The sleazy hag wants nothing more than to get her grubby tentacles upon the magical pitchfork that gives King Trigon dominion over the great depths. Sora is no fan of the Heartless, nor evil witches that control them, so he gladly offers to help Ariel beat the shit right out of Ursula. Ariel is happy to get all the help she can get, and soon introduces Sora and her friends to the rest of King Trigon's army. Leading the troops is a fearless general called Sebastian the Bastion, named such due to his preferred method of execution. Sebastian tells Ariel that his men will deal with the Heartless. In the meantime, she and her new comrades should focus on taking out Ursula herself. Under normal circumstances, Sora would be the one fighting the army and the boss, but in his current state, he realizes that he will have to rely on his wits rather than his brawn. Sora's plan is to swim quietly yet quickly into Ursula's lair and defeat her before anyone even notices them. Naturally, this plan fails miserably. Sora's attempt at graceful swimming looks more like an epileptic fit than anything, and the group's poor navigational skills cause them to get stuck in the same room for like an hour. Eventually, the group happens to stumble upon Ursula's stronghold. The guards initially try to fight Sora and his friends, but after seeing them pitifully fail about, they just feel bad for the guys and decide to just let them go. At last, our heroes have infiltrated the inner sanctum of Ursula's villainous lair. And there she is, the vile and loathsome Ursula. Her wrinkled up face and slimy tentacle-y body is even more hideous than anyone had expected. The horrible sea hag slithers out from her octopus's garden and into the nightmares of our children. She is clearly perturbed that someone has dared to disturb her unholy slumber. She makes a face of pure disgust as she lays eyes upon the intruders, which, incidentally, is the exact kind of face that everyone else makes when they lay eyes upon her. The wretch opens up her bloated, drooling mouth, presumably to utter some yucky nonsense, but she stops right in her tracks, right at the minute that Donald steps into view, and her demeanor changes completely. It seems that Ursula has fallen for Donald's new octopus body, and she thinks that he is smoking hot. She begins putting on the moves, hoping to win over the fiery wizard's deepest affections. Donald quickly realizes what is going on, and he wants nothing more than to get as far away from this planet as humanly possible. But Goofy and Sora convince him that he can use his wizardly charms in order to get Ursula to drop her guard. Donald begrudgingly accepts to communicate with the abomination in a manner that does not express pure hatred. Ursula reciprocates by blowing a tiny kiss, which causes Donald to projectile vomit right into her gray, moldy hair. Ursula begins to fear that she might lose the interest of this positive hunk of a man, and she quickly returns to her chambers in order to gussy herself up a bit. But little does she know, Ariel has already replaced all of Ursula's makeup with sulfuric acid. Ursula wails in pain as the acid burns away at her face. The heroes all celebrate joyously as the wretched hag slowly dies on the floor. At last, they are free from her putrid existence. After the death of their leader, Ursula's army quickly collapses, and Sebastian's forces easily wipe out the remaining soldiers. Sebastian himself makes sure to cave in the skulls of at least a few unlucky heartless. Ariel offers to throw Donald, Sora, and Goofy a tremendous banquet in their honor, but the three decide that they would much rather get the hell off of this planet as soon as possible. Our dear subaquatic heroes promptly return to the candy ship, and Donald prepares a fish begone spell, returning the trio back to their original forms. The team departs for the next world, relieved that they would never have to return to that underwater nightmare ever again. Besides, even if they did, it's not like it could get any worse than that, right?